Good day, grade 12s. My name is Carden Madzokere, and welcome to Exam Prep, Protectionism and Free Trade. As usual, we go through past papers from the Department of Education. This can be Feb, March, June, or November. Right. This topic here is the last topic under macroeconomics, and some people could confuse it for something else because it is normally done in term 2, and some learners know that we do macroeconomics in term 1. So even though we do it in term 2, it's still under macroeconomics. So let's have a look. And also learners find, I hear some learners saying, yeah, I don't understand the topic, but just look at it. Protectionism, free trade. Protectionism is the word is self-explanatory, and then free trade is self-explanatory as well. We are just trading, countries are trading freely between each other. All right, so let's look at the first question. This one will be study the information or what, I don't know what it is, below and answer the questions that follow. You see the word here, free trade, and you see here it says protectionism, and then it says this occurs when there are no barriers to trade. So when there are no barriers to trade, so here it's actually free trade, such as taxes or imported goods or bans or imports. It is beneficial because it allows economies of scale, okay, take note of this word, economies of scale, to be maximized, and thus unit costs are reduced and consumers are given the choice of what to buy from the whole world and not just what is produced in your own country. Right, so with this in mind, this basically is free trade. Let's find out. Identify the trade policy referred to in the cartoon above. That'll be free trade. Name one reason why the policy is beneficial. Okay, one of the reasons is that it allows economies of scale, and that means countries can, make the goods at a cheaper, price if they're mass producing. It's as simple as that. Unit costs are decreased or reduced, and one of the reasons is countries they begin to specialize in making what they have comparatively and absolute advantage in making. The other reason is that consumers are given a choice of what to buy from the world. So you are spoiled of choices. You buy what you want. So this policy is very, very good in that sense. So it's one of the advantages of it. Briefly explain the term trade liberalization. So the word liberty, everyone knows what it means. So this refers to the abolishment of government intervention in trade flows on both the import and export side. So that is liberty in as far as trade is concerned. Explain the dangers of dumping to a country. Okay, first and foremost, this dumping is not environmental dumping. This is when countries are selling goods at a cheaper price in a foreign country. All right, so what could be the dangers? It could decrease prices below the cost of producing the product. In the long term, this will drive out domestic producers because people are buying these goods at a cheaper price from other countries, and a consumer will always need a good deal regardless of where this item is made. Right, consumers are likely to lose out as a result of reduction and choice, and then exporters charge higher prices eventually. Right, why should infant industries be protected? I think the key word here is the word infant. And so we're talking about baby industries here. Why should they be protected? They find it difficult to compete. Why? Because they're upcoming. They find it difficult to compete with well-established competitors. They take advantage of economies of scale to lower their average costs. Those bigger or well-established competitors. Their average cost is higher than that of their competitors, so they have to be protected for sure. They often reduce their costs through learning by doing. Right, the next one is read the extract below and answer the questions that follow. Let's look. Buy local and boost the South African economy. So this one here is more of what do you call this one? One of the things we do in protectionism and free trade is export promotion and import substitution. So this is mostly import substitution. Right, the Proudly South African campaign requested the support of all South African producers. South Africa currently faces the challenge of competing in an unfair global economy. All South Africans should buy homegrown products and contribute to job creation locally. Our own industries need protection. Okay, you see this one here. Protectionism. Need protection until they establish base. So it means they are being infant. Korea's giant brands like Samsung and Hyundai are not only big in their own country, they are also global giants and major providers of jobs. This was adapted from Finweek, 12th October 2015. Identify the challenge faced by South Africa to succeed in international markets from the extract above that will be competing in an unfair global economy. Name one brand from the extract which is imported from Korea, that is Samsung or Hyundai. Briefly describe the term protectionism. Okay, it's self-explanatory. Protectionism refers to government policies that and regulations which are designed to benefit local producers of goods and services in their competition with imported goods, thus helping them to survive. What measures can government take to ensure the local industries are protected? Okay. One, install import quotas. A quota is a restriction on the number of goods that are imported. For instance, let's say you're coming from China and then you now at the airport, you're entering South Africa, and then they say open your luggage, and then they tell you you have too many blankets because you are only allowed to bring in at least two. So that two is a limit. Like every person who comes in must not have more than two. So that two is a limit on the amount of goods that you can bring into the country for that specific item. So we would say a quota has been imposed on those goods. So that's one of the measures that government can do to protect, because government could do it to try and avoid people from importing, let's say, blankets. I gave an example of blankets. The reason behind could be that we have maybe an infant industry. We are beginning to make our own blankets locally, so we want to protect that industry, and so government can impose a quota on that. Another one could be charge higher tariffs on imported goods. Okay, let's say, I have an example that I could give you. Okay, let me just show you this one here. Look here. What are we trying to protect here? We know we have plants where we manufacture cars here in South Africa, right? BMW is a German brand, and so obviously South Africans love cars, and actually we need them because we have to travel from one place to another. So since we need them, we probably do not have the skills that are required. So, but Germany has. So I'm taking one brand, BMW, right? So since it's a German brand, then South Africa could say, come and build your plants here in South Africa. our labor is cheaper and so on, then you can make your cars locally, and that will create employment in South Africa. You see that? So, but now if you look at that kind of an agreement, it is going to create employment in South Africa. So we want to buy cars from South Africa that are made in South Africa, so that we create employment in South Africa. So government could do it this way. Look here, this here is a 2018 BMW 3 Series. This one is also a 2018 BMW 3 Series. But look, this one here it costs 19,000 wherever it is, in Japan, I think, or in America, I don't know, I didn't check. But for you to bring it, and now it's in Durban, it will cost you 20,000. Now this is something like 350,000, but the same car, it costs 600,000 here in South Africa. Here okay, let's say this one here, 500, and this is the cheapest on this list, and this is the most expensive on this list. This will be less than 400,000, this one here. You see, again, it's a BMW 2018 series 320i. It costs 508,000, but for you to bring it here, and now, because to buy it in USA, it's USA, to buy it from USA, it's 19,000, and then it gets transported, now it's 22,000, it's in Durban. So could you just go and take it and register it? No, you cannot, because now they'll charge you a tariff that is probably, they would say 80%. You see, so 80% of 22,000, okay, fine, of the cost price. Let me just try to do quick maths here. If they charge you 0.8 times 19,610, you would have to pay 15,600 to register it. Now, if you pay 15,000, I said 19,000 is about 350. So 15 will be around 300,000. So do you see that the 19 plus 15, it gets to around 36,000, 35,000, somewhere there. And that will be more or less the same as buying it locally. And in some cases, some countries would say 100% tariff. For you to register, it will cost that much. So at the end of the day, it will be 600,000. So why going through the trouble buying a car in America that you won't test drive? You'll only be able to drive it when it's here, but it's too late, you can't take it back. So you'd rather go and test drive your own car and buy it locally. So tariffs will protect. You see that it's cheaper to buy from America, and even to bring it to South Africa, Durban, you just go and collect it and register and start driving. But to protect, because if it was made easy, everyone would buy from America. But now, if people are buying cars from America, what happens to the plants in PE? What will happen? They will begin to lay off people, because people are not buying the BMWs made in South Africa. So to protect those industries, government will have to, that's one of the ways, they'll charge a tariff. Okay, another one could be a ban or a restriction. I'm from Zimbabwe. There are so many times, agricultural products, they don't allow you to bring in certain goods, because they say we make these goods locally. So why go and buy from another country and try to bring them here? So they'll ban, so they'll burn. Let's say they open your bag and they find you with maize, and let's say they don't want you to bring your maize into the country. Why? Because we have maize farms in South Africa. So if they ban the importing of maize, then yeah, you won't be able to bring it in. And that is done to try and protect local industries. It's as simple as that. The next one, subsidize local production. And that will make production here cheaper. Enforce a local content requirement to protect employment. Just like I mentioned, even with the BMW example, you see, right? In your opinion, how How can local support boost the South African economy? By exporting. So this one here is now export promotion. Surplus production. We produce more because we want to sell to other countries. Foreign currency is earned for the country, BOP equilibrium, or reduction in BOP deficits, or a surplus. Employment opportunities are created where? Locally. So it's a good thing. Increased consumption of locally produced goods, like that. All right, so that's it with this one. Now, take note. Ever since I started doing these exam prep videos, I've been using mostly data response questions. Now, when it comes to this topic, it's only those three that I've done, the three questions I've done so far, that are on data response. So I'm going to do more 8-mark or 10-mark questions. Take note, 10-mark questions are questions from section C, which are additional parts to an essay. Since I couldn't get enough data response questions, so I had to be resourceful, I used the 8-mark question, and yes, it's still relevant, or the additional part in an essay. Right, so this, it's 10 marks, so obviously it's additional part to an essay. The question said, why should free trade be favored instead of protectionism? So in other words, this question is asking, what are the advantages of free trade? And so when you mention those advantages, obviously there are advantages of free trade over protectionism. So what are they? Free trade should be favored over protectionism because number one, it would be benefiting the country that specializes in the production of certain goods or services to make use of resources efficiently as is possible. Because when you specialize, you end up becoming efficient, right? Compared to protectionism, where it is difficult to design a policy of protection and decide whether a particular industry is beneficial to the whole country or not. Just look at it that way. The next one is opening up markets and enhances more competition in the international market compared to protectionism, which encourages import substitution, not the export of goods. You see that? The next one is making available a variety of goods and services into the local market and spoils consumers with more choices. Look, think about my BMW example. You could bring it in for 350,000, but you are forced to buy it here in South Africa for 600,000. So why? Because we are trying to protect local production, and we are trying. So it's arguable. Some will favor protectionism, some will favor free trade, but I think a mixture of these two would work. It depends. If you try to weigh the both sides, you'll see that to some extent protectionism is good, to some extent free trade is good. So you get caught up in what's best. So a desirable mix would be the best. Right, compared to protectionism, which can activate the inflation spiral, because the cost involved in protection leads to more expensive locally produced goods. Right, just like the BM example I gave. Assists businesses or enterprises finding better ways to improve their economies of scale, while at the same time producing quality outputs, compared to protectionism, where the disadvantages of higher prices against the advantages of lower imported prices is difficult to weigh up in the long term. Is bringing new technology and innovations in the way of doing business and the most cost effective manner possible, compared to protectionism, where economic growth and job creations are dampened. Sorry. Right, and so you can see what's going on here. You are giving two sides. You give the advantage of free trade, and then the opposite of that, mostly, which is the downside in this case, right, is contributing to the movement of people and goods between nations with ease, compared to the more rigid approach of protectionism, where it is difficult to identify infant industries that may be granted temporarily protectionism. All right, then the last one, reducing the knowledge and expertise gaps amongst nations due to ease and simple ways of interaction between nations, compared to the protectionism where industries that have been granted protection tend to become dependent on it and cannot survive without it. Right, again, from section C, 10 marks, that additional part. It says here, evaluate the success of protectionism as a trade policy to protect industries against foreign competitors. So here the success, so you can either say it's been successful or you can say it has not been successful. So then you mention why you think it has been successful and why you think it has not been successful. So the key word here is protectionism. So it's the opposite of free trade. Let's look how it has been. Right, promoting industrial development by focusing on implementing of technology and markets, for example, NIPF. Achieving stable wages. Okay, let me not read this whole thing. I'll have to just explain where it needs me to explain. But just have a look here. You can read word for word, pause the video, but look, we are looking at both sides here, two sides. Why you think protectionism has been successful and why you think protectionism has not been successful. So it's as easy as that. Just go through this, you will see. Right, the next one, briefly discuss economies of scale and choice. Also, you have two things here. So it's easy for you to just separate them. So you discuss economies of scale, you finish, and then you discuss choice as arguments in favor of free trade. So free trade is that one when countries are trading freely. So one of the things that is being repeated over and over again is countries will, economies of scale. So there's that you can make things cheaper because you are specializing. So free trade allows industries to maximize economies of scale, reduce costs, and become competitive in the world. And competition is a very good thing, right? Because it is the thing that makes companies or people become innovative because they want to beat the competition. So you stay up all night trying to see how cheaper you can make something, how effective you can make something. So eventually you are going to achieve economies of scale. But now if there is protectionism and you are not, you don't have that incentive to think outside the box, because at the end of the day, government is blocking away competition for you. So you can continue to be inefficient, and then that is going to harm the consumer eventually. So free trade, if we look at both policies, it can image to be the better one, but again, it's arguable. Some will think it's not the case. All right, so from my explaining, you can go through this, pause the video, go through this. And the other one is choice, choice, like you have that choice. If you are forced to buy from your country alone, then you are limited of choices. But if there is that freedom, then you are going to choose what you really like. All right. Then briefly discuss any two arguments in favor of protectionism. So anything that favors privatization. Okay, this was not supposed to be here at all. Privatization affects. Okay, yeah, this was here by mistake. I'm going to just pass this because I thought it was saying protectionism. I didn't look properly. Right. In your opinion, how can the government use subsidies to ensure that local industries are protected against unfair competition from abroad? It's funny to use this word unfair. All right. Direct subsidies. And then indirect subsidies. Okay, here, just think of anything that government can actually do, or to subsidize an industry, and subsidies will make production cheaper. Like, it will make whatever it is that you're producing, it will make it cheaper. Government is paying on our behalf. So let's say government subsidizes the production of shoes. That means shoes will be cheaper in South Africa when we buy them. Okay, so instead of that will make me buy South African shoes instead of importing them, because the subsidy has made them cheaper. So this question here just wants you to discuss what can the government do. So you can look at this, and I'll just point out some of the keywords that pop out here. Here we have the word tariff. I've explained tariffs before. Like, think about my BMW example. That is a good example of a tariff, when it's a tax on imported goods, right? So you can have a look at these. I'm not going to waste time reading this because mostly it's straightforward, unless if I see a word that really needs to be explained, like I did with tariffs. Okay, then this one here has been repeated. It's that same one that I said I'm not going to go through. All right. Okay, I think I was tired here, because right now the cartoon that I'm talking about here is not there, and it's a big problem. But you can check from one of the papers, but let's see, just for us to learn what message is conveyed. Okay, you don't see the cartoon, so let's leave that out. Which international organization promotes free trade? That will be the World Trade Organization, so take that in mind. Suggest one way in which a country can be disadvantaged from free trade. Dumping can take place, yes. It can lead to economic instability. The economy won't be stable. Exploitation of natural resources. It can compromise a country's economic independence. Infant industries may not grow. That means they may not mature. Leads to increased unemployment. The environment, safety, and labor regulations are undermined. And then foreign companies can sue government for losses. How does South Africa benefit from trade relations with China? Okay, greater variety of products on the South African market. Many products are cheaper in South Africa, so that will help the consumer. Chinese investment greater in South Africa, that will boost our economy. Both countries form part of the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So it will benefit them even more. All right, this brings us to the end of exam prep, protectionism, and free trade. As usual, please subscribe to the channel and share the link of this video to your friends. And yes, you can watch even more videos. I've done exam prep for many topics now. I've completed macroeconomics, so 8 topics to date. I've fully done macroeconomics and microeconomics to this day. And today is the 14th of September 2020. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing to those who have. And to those who haven't yet, please subscribe. And thank you so much.